This video is about sports. You know, for the people out there that don't look at the thumbnail or read the title of the video, but bro, I'm not gonna lie, I sat here for like 30 minutes trying to come up with a way to start this video. I'm a mid-YouTuber, I know, but on the real tip, I feel like everyone grows up playing some sort of sport, even if it's not necessarily competitively. You know, unless... Yeah, we'll go with enough people to where making a video like this is valid, but not nearly enough to account for the vast majority. Me personally, I grew up with 3 attributes that pretty much ensured that I was gonna get tossed headfirst into the sports world. The first thing is actually represented in this chart that I got from National Negro Graphic. Then of course you got the fact that my dad is a New York Knicks fan, which, if you know anything about Knicks fans, all they got is, first of all, each other, and hope. And that same hope has to get instilled into their offspring in the hopes that they'll make it to the NBA. Needless to say, I did not make it to the NBA, seeing as I'm making YouTube videos. But yeah, there's that as well. And then the other thing is I grew up taller than most of my peers. So you can already hear my father's Caribbean friends every time they saw me.
Him a tall, him should play basketball. Put him in a basketball camp. You must pick up the books and pick up the bumbo-clad basketball.
So if I'm being honest, when I was born, before I even saw my mother's face, I saw a fucking basketball. And it's not that I was forced to play basketball or anything, more like heavily encouraged to play basketball. Like I remember watching games with my dad and he used to tell me, you know what son, one day you're gonna be a basketball doctor. And I was sitting there, I was like, you know what dad, I will be a basketball doctor. That sounds amazing. I get to dunk on people and then check on their injuries, and I make millions of dollars. The sky's the limit. Until I got older and I realized the sky was the amount of bullshit and years of school that I'd have to go through if I wanted to do any of those things. But with all the chatter in my life going on around basketball, it only makes sense that one day I had to be able to play it, right? And I did. At about 9 or 10 years old, I went to my first basketball practice, and it was cool. I had a lot of fun. Was it something I wanted to do for the rest of my life? I don't know. After all, Dr. Eggman and that Ender Dragon were not gonna beat themselves. But it was fun enough to where I decided that I wanted to stick with it. After all, practice was only 1 to 2 times a week. What could possibly go wrong? And nothing really did, you know, other than the fact that I wanted to watch Dragon Ball Z sometimes and I couldn't because I was at practice, and some distasteful asswipe in my house decided that their love and hip-hop was more important than me trying to figure out how the hell Goku was gonna get off of Planet Namek, so I couldn't even record it. But fast forward to the summer going into 6th grade, and man, that had to be one of the most shaping summers of my life, because my father signed me up for basketball camp. That means from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., every single day, I was going to be playing nothing but basketball. Dribbling, passing, running up and down the court, suicides, walking up and down the stairs with a weight vest on for 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it was at this basketball camp that I realized something about myself. Something that would later make itself obvious to me on many occasions. But because of something that I had instilled in my head from the time that I was young, I refused to believe it. I really like basketball. I love watching it, I love the merchandise for it, I love the video games, I love the history, and yeah, I even like playing it. But not every single day. And by default at this point, I should have known, like, yeah, the NBA isn't for me. And with my mediocre ability to play the game, I'm probably not for the NBA either. However, I powered through that summer, did what I had to do, and I made it to middle school. My first middle school is irrelevant to the situation because at that point, coming off of that summer, I wasn't really focused on basketball. I met a bunch of like-minded people that were into the same things outside of basketball that I was into as well, and so I didn't really care for it anymore. But as much as I liked my friends in my first middle school, I had to leave because that school was dog shit. I got into a few situations that led to me having to leave that middle school, and I went to another one. Now, this one was completely different. Rules were stricter, I had to get to school earlier and leave later, but the most important thing here is I had no fucking friends. Gone are the days where you were cool if you brought your DS to school. Gone are the days where you could be considered cool no matter what you were into. Welcome to the days of social status based on what you do, the type of clothes you wear, the type of sneakers you wear. And more importantly for the sake of this video, whether you were good or not at basketball. Like, I don't think you guys understand how much of a juxtaposition this was from my old schools. Like, yeah, people used to play basketball, but like no one really cared that much. Like, of course the athletes were always favored, But that was only like situationally, like when I'm picking a team for dodgeball in gym class, obviously I'm gonna want the athletic dudes on my team. But in this school, it seems like the only people that were popular were people that played basketball and were good at it. And more importantly, on the team. So it was only right that I had to make the team now. And I just came from playing basketball for 3 months straight. So all I gotta do is go to the tryout and make the team. Then I can finally be accepted by everyone at my new middle school. If only that is how the story went. The tryouts came and I was hot, steamy shit. Missing layups, airballing shots, and overall just running up and down the court like a chicken with no head that has no idea what the hell he's supposed to be doing. And to add insult to injury, there was a point where one of the dudes at the tryout actually airballed a layup. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it was pretty goddamn bad. Couldn't help myself but laugh. But as we know, it couldn't just be that simple. One of the dudes on the team looks at me and he says,
Bro, don't even laugh, boy. You probably would have done the same thing.
Even after putting on one of the worst basketball displays in recorded history at that school, that was probably the most embarrassing thing about that tryout. Cause that nigga low-key wasn't even lying. Once again, I had a negative experience trying to play sports, and it was worse this time because this time I actually wanted it. In retrospect, yes, I wanted it for the wrong reasons, but I still wanted it, and I failed. And I failed in one of the most miserable ways possible. And what's worse, I wish I could tell you guys that I made the basketball team at any point during middle school, but I got cut every single year. And what makes this worse, one of the years I was actually informed by someone on the team that the last spot on the team came down to me and some other dude that we're just gonna call Gregory. The only reason Gregory got it over me, according to this person, was because he was a little bit taller than me. I was so angry at this point that I challenged him to a 1v1 in front of the entire park. And I'm not gonna lie, I killed his ass. And it felt pretty fucking good. But I still didn't get what I wanted at the end of the day. And it's no coincidence that I didn't make the team any year either. Because as I told you guys earlier, my main motivation for wanting to make the team in the first place was because of status. But as middle school went on, I eventually got my own friends anyway. I didn't have to make the basketball team anymore to be accepted by my peers. So while I still do enjoy playing basketball, it became more like a 3 a.m. motivation thing. If you guys don't know what I mean by 3 a.m. motivation, it essentially means that your drive to do something comes in episodes. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's inauthentic, but it definitely is conditional. Like when you see a motivational video at 3 a.m. You've all been there, sat in bed looking up at the ceiling like, damn, I'm really not doing shit with my life. Only problem is it's 3 a.m. So even if you wanted to do something, 9 times out of 10, ain't nothing going on at 3 a.m. And you have nothing to apply it to. And once that 3 a.m. motivation fades, it's just back to reality. My reality was that I kinda sorta enjoyed playing basketball sometimes, and my initial motivation for wanting to make the basketball team became null and void. I essentially wanted to play basketball on my own terms, but didn't really want to admit it to myself. And realistically, doing something that you love on your own terms isn't how you're gonna get better at it. And it sure as hell isn't the mentality you should have if it's something that you want to do professionally. But even through failing to make the basketball team after 3 years, believe it or not, my dumbass still had a part of me that believed I'm gonna make it to the NBA. And it's gonna sound crazy, but a lot of that is attested to the fact that I thought I'd have some random growth spurt, and I thought that growth spurt would make me miraculously good at basketball. I don't know, I was some dumbass kid. And honestly, me being at the point where I was waiting for a blessing to take something that I wanted to do professionally seriously, I should have known right there to reevaluate my dreams. But them stories about NBA players that didn't start playing basketball until 15 years old, they got me, I'm not gonna lie, I'll slap the back of my neck for that one. But now comes high school. Still playing basketball occasionally, but the summer going into 9th grade, I was on a summer basketball team. Which, just for context, it was actually a time where I had to choose between showing up to an elimination basketball game or make it to a music performance that I was a part of. Do you guys want to guess what I chose? I'll give you time. I chose the music performance, of course. Granted, there is a little bit of context to it. I was the best drummer in that band, and on the basketball team, I was like the 11th dude off the bench. So to them, losing me was like losing that fucking piece of loose string that hangs off of your shirt. But that's besides the point. I tell y'all that just to give you guys some insight in terms of my priorities. Anyway, this team is important because this is the reason that I got onto my high school basketball team. The coach of my high school basketball team and the coach of my summer league team were acquainted somehow. So when he saw my name on the roster and realized, oh, this kid's going to my school, he picked me up for a few practices. So by the grace of God, somehow I was able to tiptoe my way through the window and onto the team.
Tell him to bring me my money. Yeah!
And even when I was on the team, I wasn't completely on the team. I was more like the dude that was just around but didn't really have a jersey. But got to practice with them though. I did actually get to play like 1 or 2 games, but I wasn't doing shit. So I now got what I fought for so many years. But even then, I was the equivalent to when you unplug the controller and give that shit to your brother to make him feel like he's playing. And honestly, due to my skill level at the time, I'm still to this day grateful for that opportunity. I was very fortunate to have gotten it, but it was at this point that I got smacked in the face with reality. My arc concluded, and everything about everything that I thought that I was going to be doing since I was 8 years old was put on hold because of this very realization that I had. And that realization is, I am not going to the goddamn NBA. Realistically, there were people that got a fair tryout that deserved my spot more than me. They were better than me. There were people in high school that didn't even care about playing basketball professionally that would leave me on 0 in a 1v1, which is fine. But in the grand scheme of things, do I give a shit to get better? Not really. Do I want to stay after school for 4 extra hours and toss some balls around with a bunch of individuals that I don't even really like that much, nor are they that fond of me? And this don't go for everyone on the team, by the way. If you watching this video and you know, you know. But at the start of high school, I made so many good friends that I wanted to get to know on a grander scale, but I couldn't because I had to stay after school to do something every day that I didn't even care about that much. All of the things that I was actually passionate about were left on the back burner. And you know what I had to show for it? I finally got what my 6th grade self wanted, and my current self was not happy. So, I did what I had to do. I left the team. And by left the team, what I really mean is I just kind of stopped going for a month with low-key the intentions to go back, but I got kicked from the group chat. Either way, what's done is done. And honestly, this was one of the best decisions that I ever made in my entire life. It's the first time I was realistic with myself in a long time, and I'm really glad that I was. High school started to look up. I went on to make and maintain great friendships that I still hold near and dear to my heart to this day. And I know it sounds crazy, because essentially what I'm telling you guys is I gave up. And even though, yes, realistically, I did give up. For the first time in my life, I didn't have shackles around my ankles. I didn't have to live up to a false expectation that someone had of me. I didn't have to deal with my motivations constantly flip-flopping. And above all, I didn't have to lie to myself anymore. About 2 years ago, I had a talk with one of my cousins who I used to play basketball with heavily, and he was still in high school at the time. And he said something that at the time I agreed with, but looking back now, I don't necessarily agree with it. Either way, it's still very significant. He said,
Sparky, I'm not gonna lie. We wasted a lot of our time and a lot of our lives playing basketball. We could have been doing something else.
And honestly, at the time with him, I agreed. But you know why I disagree now? For one, I don't regret playing basketball at all. I know I'm only dialing in on the negatives, but there were a lot of positives that came from me playing basketball throughout my life. But overall, the reason I don't regret it is because it's a part of my arc. Everything played out exactly the way it was supposed to, in my opinion. Because although I've been playing basketball for a long time technically, I feel like 9th grade was the perfect time for me to come to that realization that I don't really care for this shit like that. Because of this, I went on to have a high school experience that I'm pretty proud of. And things just could have been so much worse. Imagine if I started playing basketball in middle school and only came to the realization that I didn't want to do it anymore my senior year of high school. I would have built my whole high school experience around something that I just realized that I didn't want to do. And then college would have been next year. That would have been scary. And I know because I've literally seen it. The same people that ridiculed me for giving up essentially did the same thing that I did, but did it at a time where all of their eggs were in one basket. No pun intended. And it really is a sad thing to see. The passion in people's eyes starts to fade, dreams get crushed, and honestly, it don't even be their fault. This happens to people who really got a love for sports, man, and that shit is unfortunate. So I really am grateful for the journey that I had with sports. However, do not be me, guys. You pick up that ball or those cleats or that iron, the fuck, ask yourself why it is that you do it. And even then, understand that how you feel about something is generally reflected by your attitude towards it. When you wake up and you just want to do something every day, regardless of your good days or your bad days, regardless of people's opinion, I feel like that's when you know that passion is real. And that's not to say that you won't have good and bad days, but it's whether or not you let those good and bad days cloud your vision. Because though physical, sports at the end of the day is mostly mentality. The other thing I'd like to say, and a lot of people probably aren't going to want to hear this, but sometimes it's okay to realistically evaluate yourself. And this isn't even always physical, because I feel like a lot of times you can compensate for that, especially through your hard work. But it can be something as simple as where you live. You can be the next coming of Kobe Bryant, but you go to Elmore Junior High School. Ain't nobody gonna know that you nice. There are no scouts in West Bumblefuck. So unless you want to get scouted by Chandler Jones.
Like white girls? We got the baddest white girls in the cold country.
Trust me, none of you guys want that. There should definitely be a conversation about relocating to make your dreams come true. The next thing, I know it sounds cliche, but it's only cliche because it's so real. Work on your game. I don't even think I gotta go into detail. You want something, you gotta put in the hours. Like, why are you even watching this video right now? Nah, chill. Finish the video, of course, but after that, I need 10 makes, or 10 kicks, or throws, or wrinkles out of a shirt. I'm sorry, I found out that ironing was an actual sport during the making of this video, and I still think that shit is crazy, so, yeah. Next thing, do not compare your journey to others. My story will not be yours, and your story will not be like anyone else's. It's very easy to get caught up in someone's story and feel like you're not as far as you should be, but understand that it is only over when you say it's over. If the outcome exists in your head, chances are it is 100% possible, but understand, there are people that probably started playing your sport last month and are already leaps and bounds ahead of you. But there are also people that have been playing for 15 plus years that you could definitely give a run for their money. Either way, if you love it and you want to do it, take it seriously. And last thing, understand that there are other avenues related to what you want to do that don't involve you being directly involved. A lot of your favorite media personality, from commentators to sports analysts, wanted to be players themselves. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen, so now they just talk about it. And you know what? That's still amazing. If you love a sport but maybe don't have the physicality for it, look for other factors of that sport that you can possibly contribute to. The specifics of that, however, I can't really give you. I'm not too much of a sports guy. And also, really, even if I was, extreme ironing exists, as well as wife carrying. Yeah, I don't even think Google could help you with those. Can't be that hard to get a job at the cleaners or kidnap somebody's wife.